Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, well, this is going to be a doozy. We're going to talk about 3 popular hunting cartridges that really shouldn't be popular. Now, cartridges come and go, and honestly, it doesn't make any sense for a lot of the cartridges that fail and for a lot of them that blow up and succeed. So let's talk 3 cartridges that hunters love, but that just doesn't make sense. Coming in at number 3 is a cartridge that I love and hate at the exact same time. And honestly, this cartridge, you could have a very strong argument that this cartridge isn't popular enough to make the list. But I don't know, when I think of a long-range hunting cartridge, this is the cartridge that comes to mind. So what is it? See if you guys guessed it right. That's a 28 Nosler. So why is the 28 Nosler on this list? It really comes down to one thing. It's extremely difficult to get this thing to shoot well. I've loaded a lot for 28 Nosler, and it wasn't in a cheap rifle. We had an aftermarket stock, we had a proof research barrel, and a Timney trigger. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of lucky if I can get this thing to be sub MOA. As far as hand loading goes, this cartridge is easily the pickiest cartridge I have ever loaded for. And that says a lot, guys. I shoot a bunch of Weatherby cartridges that are supposed to be picky and not easy to load for. But I'll just tell you now, my 300 Weatherby Magnum in a cheaper rifle shoots circles around this 28 Nosler. I can get half MOA quite regularly with the 300 Weatherby. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've gotten half MOA or smaller in the 28 Nosler. It might be 2 or 3 times, while this, way more. The same goes with the 257 Weatherby that I load for, and honestly, I would even say my Mark V Deluxe and 340 Weatherby is more accurate than this 28 Nosler. Now, a counter argument is big deal. It gets 1 MOA to 1.5 MOA. Those are 3 shot groups, by the way, not more. And you're right. For hunting, it's really not that big of a deal. You know, you don't need a half MOA gun to hunt. That's just the truth. However, it's 2025, and everyone, at least the market, is going for tiny bug hole groups. And you just can't get it in a hunting rifle in 28 Nosler. Now, in a bench gun, that's completely different. But in a hunting rifle, good luck. All right, folks, this rifle is a Weatherby Vanguard. And I'll go on record saying, for the money, this rifle is extremely hard to beat. I will say the Vanguard and the Tikka are some of the best, more budget-friendly option rifles you can get. They just shoot. And when I hear of a Weatherby Vanguard that struggles to get good accuracy, there's only one cartridge that comes to mind. It's the 300 Winchester Magnum. So coming in at number 2, an extremely popular cartridge that just shouldn't be is the 300 Winchester Magnum. Now, I completely understand why this cartridge is very popular. Winchester did extremely well at making an affordable rifle and an affordable cartridge that competes kind of close to the 300 Weatherby Magnum. Now, this cartridge came out in 1963, and again, it didn't really have much competition back then. The number 1 30 caliber Magnum to this day, which you'll understand in a sec, doesn't really make sense. So some of the problems with the 300 Win Mag, it really is its design. Now, I understand Winchester was trying to fit this in a long action, same action as a 30-06. So what does that do? Well, the bolt's just stuffed in there. It's got to fit in a 3.340-inch action and magazine and chamber. So your heavier bullets are stuffed in the case really far, which isn't ideal. Now, you can fix that with a custom gun. The biggest issue, though, with 300 Winchester Magnum is its chamber designs. Awful. The worst of any cartridge I've ever seen. You know, Hornady always touts these tight tolerance chambers, and it does actually do something. You know, the tighter the tolerance is, generally speaking, you're going to get more accurate rifle. 300 Win Mag is the least it's bad. Now, specifically what I want to show you is the free bore diameter. So that's the diameter of the chamber in the free bore. So when you shoot a bullet out of a 300 Win Mag, there's a possibility, there's so much space in between the bullet could actually wiggle before it gets into the lands, which is not good. Now there is a way to fix this for your 300 Win Mag. If you're going to keep it a SAMI spec rifle, you got to hand load and you got to load the bullet really close to the lands so that there's no jump and there's no room for it to wiggle. That's really the fix for it. So whenever I hear of rifles, especially budget option rifles, that just don't shoot well and they're chambered in 300 Win Mag, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Coming in at number 1, for a lot of you, this is no surprise. And for the other part, bear with me. I'm going to have some good arguments on why this very popular 7mm cartridge should not be. Of course, number 1 is 7mm PRC. 7mm PRC had a lot of hoopla when it was released. It was advertised as shooting these really high BC 175 grain bullets at 3,000 feet per second. And it did that for probably 6 months, maybe a year, because Hornady was loading it with Reloader 26. But turns out 7PRC is kind of a one-trick pony. To get that 3,000 feet per second, you got to load it with Reloader 26. So unfortunately for Hornady, that pony died. And for the past 2 years, Hornady's been loading it with different powders. And as you guys know, powder gate, it's getting way slower velocities, even in 24-inch barrels and 26-inch barrels. In a 24-inch barrel, you would be really lucky to get 2,900 feet per second with the 175 grain ELDX that's advertised at 3,000. I'd say most 24-inch barrels are getting 2,850. In a 22-inch barrel, boy, I hope you're getting 2,800. Even in 26-inch barrel, you might be a little over 2,900 feet per second. Now, the counter argument to this is, well, reloading weather bead, you just go buy some Federal 7PRC 175 ELDX ammo. And yeah, that seems to get really close to box velocity. But I'm going to make an argument that most people are still getting the Hornady factory ammo. So the vast majority of people are getting 28 to 2850 feet per second with a 175 grain, which basically turns the 7mm PRC, wait for it, into a 280 Ackley improved. The other issue that seems to plague the 7mm PRC, accuracy with factory ammo in a factory gun. I've watched a lot of YouTube 7mm PRC and in factory rifles with factory ammo, and the accuracy is just mediocre at best and poor most of the time. I've seen, most of the time you're lucky if you get around MOA with a 7mm PRC. And just with how it's advertised as being a precision cartridge in these factory rifles, it's just not with factory ammo. Honestly, I'm kind of, what in the world? How is this cartridge the #1 Magnum right now? Why are people still buying this? Hornady still advertises, you can see here, 3,000 feet per second. They haven't changed it. They should, but they haven't. On top of that, I really feel like you have to hand load the 7PRC to get its true potential. Everyone thinks I just hate on the 7PRC constantly. Well, that's not true. I will say, if you hand load a 7PRC and you don't have a lemon rifle, holy cow, is this thing accurate. And if you push it hard enough with different brass from Hornady, use ADG or Peterson or Lapua. I think Lapua is coming out with 7PRC. You can easily get those velocities, even in a 24-inch barrel. But the accuracy, this might be the most accurate Magnum ever made. It's impressive, I gotta say. It's just accurate. I'm tickled pink if my 300 Weatherby can get half MOA. If you hand load a good rifle in 7PRC, half MOA 3-shot groups should be the standard, right? You should be getting sub half MOA out of a 7PRC. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I know this one's a bit controversial. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with me or do you think I'm dumb?